Commander Park Hyun wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the holographic display that filled the entire war room. The red dots on the star map kept multiplying like a deadly infection spreading across space. Each dot represented an alien warship, and there were already 50,000 of them floating beyond Neptune. "This is it," he whispered to himself. "The moment we've all been preparing for." The command center buzzed with activity. Officers ran between stations, their faces tense with concentration. The massive screens around the room showed real-time footage from deep space telescopes. The alien ships looked like massive metal beasts, each one the size of a small city. Lieutenant Kim Da-yoon's voice cut through the noise. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from the Zephyrian fleet." Her fingers moved quickly across the holographic control panel, decoding the alien message. "They're demanding our immediate surrender." Park walked closer to her station. "What exactly are they saying?" "They claim Earth belongs to them now," Da-yoon replied, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "They want all humans to report. 2 collection centers for ... processing." The word processing sent chills down everyone's spine. They all knew what had happened to the other species the Zephyrians had conquered. The lucky ones became slaves. The unlucky ones became food. Park's jaw tightened as he thought about his wife and daughter back in Seoul. They were probably watching the news right now, scared and wondering if Daddy would come home. "Send a reply," he ordered, his voice firm. "Tell them Earth declines their generous offer." Da-yoon's eyes widened. "Sir, are you sure?" "They have 50,000 ships." "I'm sure," Park said. "And tell them if they want our planet, they'll have to take it." Across the solar system, the message went out on encrypted channels. Every hidden military installation, every disguised weapons platform, every secret base received the same 2 words: lighthouse active. Deep in the asteroid belt, mining station Alpha 7 looked exactly like what it was supposed to be, a boring rock processing facility. Commander Lee Tae-ho had spent 5 years making sure it looked completely ordinary, though the alien scouts had passed by it dozens of times, never giving it a second glance. But now, as the encrypted signal reached his station, everything changed. "All hands, battle stations," Tae-ho announced over the intercom. "This is not a drill. Project Lighthouse is now active." The mining equipment that had been grinding rocks for years suddenly folded away into hidden compartments. The asteroid itself began to split open like a giant mechanical flower. Inside, weapons that could destroy entire fleets gleamed in the artificial light. "Reactor online," reported his second-in-command, Captain Shin Yu-jin. "Weapon systems charging. Will be ready to fire in 60 seconds." Tae-ho watched his instruments light up like a Christmas tree. Hidden systems that had been dormant for decades came online one by one. The boring mining station was transforming into one of the most powerful weapons platforms in human history. "All lighthouse stations report status," he spoke into his device. The responses came flooding in from across the solar system. Hidden bases on Europa, disguised installations on Titan, weapons platforms built into the rings of Saturn, all of them were coming online. "Station Beta 3, weapons hot and ready. Station Gamma 12, all systems green. Station Delta 7, locked and loaded." Tae-ho smiled grimly. The aliens thought they were attacking a primitive world with basic defenses. They had no idea that humans had been preparing for this moment for over 50 years. Back on Earth, Park watched the alien fleet begin its advance. The massive ships moved in perfect formation, their dark hulls reflecting the distant light of the sun. They looked unstoppable, like a wave of death rolling toward his home planet. "Sir, we're getting reports from our deep space observers," announced Major Kwon Min-seok. "The alien ships are ... huge. Their flagship is over 20 kilometers long." Nodded. "What about their weapons?" "Plasma cannons, ion torpedoes, and something our scientists are calling matter disintegrators," Min-seok replied.
Oh.
"They could glass entire continents." Around the command center, junior officers exchanged worried glances. The odds seemed impossible. How could Earth possibly stand against such overwhelming force? But Park had seen the classified files. He knew about the secret projects, the hidden weapons, the trap that had been decades in the making. The aliens thought they were hunting sheep, but they were about to discover they had cornered a pack of wolves. "Attention all lighthouse stations," Park spoke into his command microphone. "Enemy fleet is advancing. Maintain concealment until they reach the Jupiter marker. When they do, show them what human engineering can accomplish." The trap was set. 50,000 alien ships were flying straight into the most sophisticated military ambush in galactic history, and they had absolutely no idea what was waiting for them. Admiral Vexthal S. massive form towered over the bridge of his flagship, the Death's Edge. His forearms moved across multiple control panels as he studied the pathetic human response. The message was simple and defiant, exactly what he expected from a species about to be extinct. "These humans think they can resist the might of the Zephyrian Empire," he growled, his voice echoing through the bridge. His scaled skin shifted from green to angry red, a sign that meant death for his enemies. "They conquered 12 star systems, enslaved billions, and now these Earth creatures dare to refuse our mercy." The bridge crew of various alien species, all conquered and forced to serve, worked in terrified silence. They knew what happened to those who failed the Admiral. "Foolish creatures," Vexel snarled, his razor-sharp teeth gleaming. "Begin the advance. Destroy anything that moves.
Oh.
Show them why I am called the World Breaker." The Zephyrian Armada surged forward like a tidal wave of death. 50,000 warships moved in perfect formation, their dark hulls gleaming with weapon ports and shield generators. Each ship was a masterpiece of destruction, designed to turn planets into ash and civilizations into memories as they passed Jupiter. The gas giant's massive form provided a beautiful backdrop to their advance. The alien fleet looked unstoppable, like gods of war descending upon helpless mortals. But appearances can be deceiving. Hidden inside what looked like a broken piece of mining equipment floating near Jupiter's orbit, the sensors detected the approaching fleet. The metal chunk had been drifting there for 15 years, ignored by everyone who saw it. Just another piece of space junk. Then it opened fire. The first plasma burst caught the lead Zephyrian destroyer completely off guard. The massive beam punched through its shields like they were made of paper, splitting the ship in half. Explosions rippled along its hull as the two pieces tumbled into space. "What was that?" Vextol roared, his 4 eyes scanning the tactical display. "Where did that shot come from?" Before anyone could answer, a dozen more hidden weapons platforms revealed themselves. What the aliens had dismissed as space debris suddenly blazed with weapons fire. Asteroid chunks that had been floating harmlessly for decades opened up like deadly flowers, revealing massive gun barrels and missile launchers. Captain Choi Minho sat in his command chair deep inside Asteroid XK-739, watching the alien fleet through his periscope. The asteroid had been hollowed out over 20 years ago, turned into a fortress that looked like a worthless rock from the outside. "Phantom Squadron, you are clear to engage." He spoke into his headset, his voice calm despite the adrenaline pumping through his veins. "Show them what human engineering can do." The asteroid's surface began to crack and split. Hidden hangar doors opened, revealing the gleaming fighters inside. These weren't the bulky warships the aliens expected. They were sleek, fast, and deadly, like metallic sharks built for one purpose: killing. The first wave of human fighters burst from their hidden bases like angry wasps. They moved in perfect formation, their engines leaving trails of blue fire against the black of space. Each fighter was no bigger than a city bus, but they packed enough firepower to take down ships 10 times their size. "Contact! Contact!" screamed a Zephyrian sensor operator. Unknown fighters approaching from multiple vectors. They're not showing up on our scanners." Vextol S' eyes widened in shock. The ships had the most advanced sensors in the galaxy. Nothing could hide from them. Nothing. The human fighters struck like lightning. Their weapons were different from anything the aliens had seen before. Focused energy beams that could cut through armor like butter, and missiles that seemed to think for themselves as they hunted their targets. Lieutenant Colonel Han So-young coordinated the attack from Europa Station. Her command center was buried 3 kilometers under the frozen surface, completely invisible to alien sensors. "All units maintain formation," she commanded, watching the battle unfold on her screens. "Target their escort vessels first." Them think we're desperate. The human strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. Attack the smaller ships first. Make it look like they were trying to chip away at the massive fleet. Let the aliens think they were facing scattered resistance from a panicked species. "Dragon Squadron, hit their left flank," Han ordered. "Phoenix Squadron, take the right. Make them think we're just trying to survive." The alien fleet began to take losses. Ships exploded in brilliant fireballs as human weapons found their marks. But instead of retreating, the Zephyrians pressed forward, confident they could overwhelm the human forces through sheer numbers. "Sir, we're losing ships," reported Vextel's tactical officer. "But it's just scattered resistance. Their fighters are fast, but they can't do real damage to our main fleet." Vextel nodded, his anger cooling to cold calculation. "Continue the advance. These humans are like insects, annoying, but ultimately harmless. We'll crush them and move on to their planet." The alien fleet reformed and pushed deeper into the solar system. They had no idea they were flying straight into the most sophisticated military trap in human history. Every move they made, every formation they took, had been anticipated and planned for. Hidden sensors tracked their progress. Secret weapons platforms repositioned themselves. And deep in the asteroid belt, mining stations that weren't mining stations prepared for the real fight to begin. The aliens thought they were winning. They had no idea the battle had barely started. The Zephyrian fleet limped toward Mars, their perfect formation now broken and scattered. Admiral Vextel stood on his bridge, his forearms clenched into fists as he watched the damage reports scroll across his screens. In just 2 hours, he had lost over 3,000 ships to what should have been primitive human resistance. Regrouped near the Red Planet, he ordered his fleet commanders. "We need to reassess our strategy." Some massive alien ships pulled into a defensive formation around Mars, their dark hulls scarred and smoking from the unexpected human attacks. Vextel's red eyes studied the planet below, looking for any sign of threat. Mars looked peaceful from space. The red surface was dotted with what appeared to be standard terraforming installations, atmospheric processors, water extraction plants, and small research colonies. Nothing that looked remotely military. "Perfect," Vextel muttered, his confidence beginning to return. "We'll use this world as our staging ground. Eliminate any resistance, then proceed to Earth with a proper plan." His tactical officer, a nervous creature from the conquered Zelvian species, approached cautiously. "Sir, should we scan the planet more thoroughly? The humans have already surprised us once." Vextel's massive hand slammed down on the console, making the smaller alien jump back in fear. "Those were just scattered defense platforms. A terraforming colony. Look at it, farmers and scientists. Nothing more." But the Admiral was wrong. It's very wrong. Deep beneath the red surface of Mars, in a command bunker that had been constructed in absolute secrecy over the past 30 years, Colonel Yoon Jae-min received the encrypted message he'd been waiting for his entire career. "Lighthouse Protocol confirmed," came the voice from Earth Command. "Mars defense is authorized. Repeat, Mars defense is authorized." Jamin's hands trembled slightly as he entered his personal authorization codes. Around him, his staff worked. With quiet efficiency, their faces grim with determination. They all knew what was about to happen. "Initiate Mars Defense Protocol," he commanded, his voice echoing through the underground facility. "All civilians to deep shelters immediately. This is not a drill." Across the planet, warning sirens began to wail, in the research stations, terraforming facilities, and mining colonies. Families grabbed their emergency bags and ran for the deep bunkers that had been built into every structure. They had practiced this drill 1,000 times, but never imagined they would need it for real. "Sir, all civilian populations are secured," reported Major Park Yoon-ji from her monitoring station. "Estimated time to complete evacuation, 18 minutes." Jamin nodded grimly. "Could begin Phase 1 transformation." What happened next would have been impossible to believe if the aliens hadn't seen it with their own eyes. The terraforming processors that had been working peacefully for decades suddenly began to change. Their atmospheric intake vents rotated and reconfigured, revealing themselves to be massive weapon barrels. Mining equipment that had been digging for water and minerals folded away, replaced by missile launchers and energy cannons that rose from hidden underground bays. Captain Osujin watched from the bridge of what appeared to be a simple cargo freighter, the Soul's Pride, for 5 years. She had maintained the disguise, hauling supplies between Earth and Mars like thousands of other commercial vessels. The aliens had scanned her ship dozens of times and found nothing suspicious. They had no idea that her cargo hold contained some of the most advanced weapons in human space. "All hands, battle stations," she announced to her crew. Disguise. The sides of the freighter suddenly fell away like a discarded shell, revealing the sleek warship hidden inside. Weapon ports opened along its hull, and powerful engines that had been carefully concealed roared to life. "This is Souls. Pride to Mars defense," Sujin reported, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to face. "Target acquired. All Mars defense platforms are operational." Around her, similar transformations were taking place throughout Martian space. Cargo ships revealed themselves as warships. Communication satellites unfolded into weapon platforms. Research stations opened their hidden gun ports. But the most spectacular transformation was happening on Mars itself. The planet's surface began to shift and move like a living thing. Massive sections of red sand slid away, revealing gleaming metal structures beneath. Weapon arrays the size of city blocks rose from hidden underground installations. The polar ice caps cracked open, exposing orbital defense cannons that had been concealed for decades. "By the void," whispered Vextel's tactical officer, staring at the scanner readings. "Admiral, you need to see this." The Admiral looked at his screens and felt his blood turn to ice. The peaceful terraforming colony was transforming into the largest fortress he had ever seen. Weapon signatures were appearing everywhere on the surface, in orbit, hidden in the asteroid belt around the planet. "This is impossible," he breathed. "How long have they been preparing for this?" His question was answered by the planet itself. Ancient impact craters that had marked Mars for millions of years suddenly revealed their true purpose. They weren't natural formations. They were carefully constructed firing positions, each one housing weapons that could destroy entire fleets. The largest crater, Olympus Mons, split open like a massive mechanical flower. Inside a weapon, the size of a mountain began to power up, its energy signature so intense it made the alien sensors scream warnings. "Sir, we need to retreat," the tactical officer stammered. "We're not approaching a defenseless world. We're flying straight into the barrel of the largest weapon ever constructed by any species." But it was too late. The trap was closing, and 50,000 alien ships were caught right in the middle of it. Mars had revealed its true face, and it was the face of war. The Zephyrian fleet approached Mars like wounded predators, their once perfect formation now ragged and broken. Admiral Vextel gripped the railing of his command deck, his 4 claws leaving deep scratches in the metal. The red planet hung before them like a bloody eye, watching their approach. "Pathetic humans," he snarled, his voice echoing through the bridge. "They think their little tricks can stop the might of the Zephyrian Empire." Behind him, his bridge. Crew worked nervously at their stations. Admiral's mood had turned darker with each ship they'd lost. Everyone knew that failure meant death in the Zephyrian military. "Sir, we're receiving standard terraforming signals from the planet," reported his communications officer, a thin creature with too many eyes. "Atmospheric processors, water extraction facilities, research colonies, nothing unusual." Studied the red world through his view screen. Mars looked exactly like every other human colony he'd destroyed, peaceful, undefended, ripe for conquest. The terraforming installations scattered across its surface were the same boring equipment he'd seen on a dozen worlds. "Perfect," he declared, his confidence returning. "We'll use this world as our staging ground. Eliminate any resistance then. Proceed to Earth with overwhelming force." His tactical officer, still nervous from the earlier attacks, spoke up carefully. "Admiral, Should we perhaps scan more thoroughly? The humans have already shown they're more prepared than we expected. Vexthel's massive head turned toward the officer, his red eyes blazing with anger. Are you questioning my judgment, Lieutenant? No, sir. Never, sir. The officer stammered, backing away. I just thought, don't think Vexthel cut him off. Look at that planet. Farmers, scientists, terraformers. Nothing more dangerous than a greenhouse, about 3 kilometers beneath the red surface of Mars. In a command bunker that had been secretly constructed over 30 years, Colonel Yoon Jamin stared at the wall of monitors showing the approaching alien fleet. His weathered face was calm, but his hands trembled slightly as he reached for the activation console. Sir, we have 50,000 enemy vessels approaching, reported his second-in-command, Major Kim Hae-won. They're moving into standard orbital assault formation. Jamin nodded slowly. He'd been waiting for this moment his entire career. As a young officer, he'd helped design the Mars Defense Protocol. As a captain, he'd overseen its construction. And now as a colonel, he would unleash it, initiate Mars. Defense Protocol, he commanded, his voice steady, despite the magnitude of what he was about to do. All civilians to deep shelters immediately. This is not a drill. The activation code he entered was 47 characters long, known only to 3 people in the entire solar system. As his fingers moved across the holographic keyboard, he thought of his daughter back on Earth. He's probably watching the news and wondering if Daddy would come home. Across Mars, warning sirens began to wail. In the research stations, mining facilities, and terraforming colonies, families grabbed their emergency bags and ran for the deep bunkers built into every structure. Children who had practiced this drill in school suddenly found themselves living it. Attention all Mars civilians, came the announcement over every speaker on the planet. This is not a drill. Proceed immediately to your designated emergency. Shelters do not stop for personal belongings. This is a Class Alpha military activation. Mrs. Song Min-ae grabbed her 2 young children and ran for the shelter beneath New Sol Colony. Mommy, what's happening? Asked her 6-year-old son, tears streaming down his face. The soldiers are going to protect us, she whispered, holding him close, just like they promised. In the underground command center, Major Kim watched the evacuation progress on her screens. Sir, civilian evacuation is at 90%.
Estimated.
Completion in 12 minutes? Good, Jamin replied. Begin Phase 1 transformation. What happened next would have been impossible to believe if the aliens hadn't seen it with their own eyes. The atmospheric processors that had been peacefully converting. Mars's atmosphere for decades suddenly began to change. Their intake vents rotated and reconfigured, revealing themselves to be massive weapon barrels. The gentle hum of terraforming equipment was replaced by the ominous whine of charging energy weapons, mining equipment that had been digging for water and precious. Metals folded away like origami, replaced by missile launchers and particle beam. Cannons that rose from hidden underground bays. Research stations that had been studying Martian geology opened their rooftops, revealing sophisticated radar arrays and targeting systems. Captain Oh Soo-jin watched the transformation from the bridge of what appeared to be a simple cargo freighter drifting in Mars orbit. The Soul's Pride had been her cover for 5 years, hauling supplies between Earth and Mars like hundreds of other commercial vessels. The aliens had scanned her ship dozens of times, finding nothing but farming equipment and food supplies. Had no idea that her cargo hold contained some of the most advanced weapons in human space. All hands, battle stations, she announced to her crew of 25. Drop the disguise. It's time to show these aliens what we're really carrying. The sides of the freighter suddenly fell away like a discarded costume, revealing the sleek warship hidden inside. Weapon ports opened along its hull like predatory eyes, and powerful engines that had been carefully concealed roared to life with blue flame. This is Soul's Pride to Mars Defense Control, Soo-jin reported, her voice steady despite facing impossible odds. Target acquired. All Mars defense platforms are operational. Around her, similar transformations were taking place throughout Martian space. Cargo ships revealed themselves as warships. Communication satellites unfolded into weapon platforms. Research stations opened their hidden gun ports, missile bays, But the most spectacular transformation was happening on Mars itself. The planet's surface began to shift and move like a living thing. Massive sections of red sand slid away on hidden tracks, revealing gleaming metal structures beneath. Weapon arrays the size of city blocks rose from installations that had been concealed for decades. The polar ice caps, which scientists had been carefully studying for years, cracked open like giant eggs. Inside, orbital defense cannons that could destroy entire fleets had been waiting. Hidden beneath millions of tons of ice and rock. "By the void," whispered Vextel's tactical officer, staring at his scanner readings in disbelief. "Admiral, you need to see this immediately." The Admiral looked at his screens and felt his blood turn to ice water. The peaceful terraforming colony was transforming into the largest fortress he had ever seen. Weapon signatures were appearing everywhere on the surface, in orbit, hidden in the moons and asteroids around the planet. "This is impossible," he breathed, his forearms trembling. Long have they been preparing for this? His question was answered by the planet itself. Ancient impact craters that had marked Mars for millions of years suddenly revealed their true purpose. They weren't natural formations. They were carefully constructed firing positions, each one housing weapons that could vaporize capital ships. The largest crater, Olympus Mons, split open like a massive mechanical flower. Inside, a weapon the size of a mountain began to power up, its energy signature so intense it made every alien sensor scream warnings. "Sir, we need to retreat immediately," the tactical officer stammered, his voice cracking with terror. "We're not approaching a defenseless world. We're flying straight into the barrel of the largest weapon ever constructed by any species in the galaxy." But it was already too late. The trap was closing around them like the jaws of a mechanical beast, and 50,000 alien ships were caught right in the middle of it. Mars had revealed its true face. It was the face of war, the space around. Mars erupted like a supernova as thousands of hidden weapons opened fire simultaneously. Brilliant beams of pure energy lanced out from the planet's surface, each one capable of cutting a battleship in half. The peaceful red world had become a fortress of death. Admiral Vextel watched in horror as his frontline ships simply vanished in balls of superheated plasma. The Destroyer of Worlds, a massive dreadnought that had conquered entire star systems, was split down the middle by a single shot from Olympus Mons. Its crew of 8,000 aliens died in seconds. "Impossible," he roared, his forearms slamming against his command console. "How can a primitive species possess such firepower?" His bridge crew scrambled at their stations, trying to make sense of the readings flooding their screens. Energy. Signatures that should have been impossible were appearing everywhere. The humans hadn't just built weapons, they had built impossibly advanced weapons. "Sir, we're losing ships faster than we can count them," reported his tactical officer, Terror, clear in his voice. "The entire front formation is gone, just ... gone." The first wave of Mars defense had been devastating, but it was only the beginning. Deep beneath the red surface, in a command center carved into the heart of Olympus Mons itself, General Bay Sung-ho watched the battle unfold on massive holographic displays. The underground facility was a marvel of engineering. 3 kilometers of solid rock protected the most important military installation in human space. Phase 1 complete, reported his aide, Colonel Park Jin-woo. Enemy frontline eliminated. Remaining forces are attempting to regroup. Bay nodded grimly. He was a small man, with kind eyes, but those who knew him understood that behind his gentle appearance was a mind that had spent 30 years planning this exact moment. Every alien ship movement, every possible attack pattern, every tactical option, he had considered them all. "Phase 2, execute now," he ordered. "Spring the outer ring." The command went out across the solar system in milliseconds. Hidden relay stations that had been disguised as routine communication satellites transmitted the activation codes to installations that had been waiting in the darkness for decades. "Commander," Ayunji sat in her command chair aboard what appeared to be a derelict space station drifting in the asteroid belt. For 12 years, she had maintained the illusion that her facility was nothing more than abandoned mining equipment. The aliens had scanned it hundreds of times and found nothing worth their attention. Now, as the activation codes reached her station, she smiled grimly. All hands battle stations. Drop the disguise. The abandoned station suddenly came alive with activity. Sections of its hull that had been rusted and damaged looking fell away like a molting shell, revealing gleaming weapons underneath. The aliens had dismissed as worthless scrap metal, transformed into one of the most powerful weapons platforms ever built. "This is Asteroid Station Bravo 7, she announced on the command frequency. "Final piece of humanity's plan is now active." Throughout the asteroid belt, the same transformation was happening on a massive scale. Chunks of rock that had been floating harmlessly for decades suddenly bristled with weapon ports. Mining equipment that had been grinding asteroids for years folded away, replaced by missile launchers and energy cannons. The aliens had always wondered why humans spent so much time in the asteroid belt. They assumed it was just for mining precious metals. They never imagined that every piece of mining equipment was actually a weapons platform in disguise. "Sir," new contacts appearing throughout the asteroid field, screamed a Zephyrian sensor. "Operator, thousands of them. There. They're all weapons platforms." Vextel stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Red dots were appearing everywhere, surrounding his fleet like a closing net. The space around Mars, which had seemed empty moments before, was now filled with hostile targets. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "We've been watching this system for months. There was nothing here." His answer came in the form of concentrated weapons fire from every direction. The outer ring of humanity's trap had been sprung, and the alien fleet was caught in the crossfire of the largest weapons array in the solar system. But General Bay wasn't finished yet. "Activate the mobile fleet," he ordered. Time for the final surprise. Captain Lim Hai Yenwu had been waiting behind Earth's moon for this moment. His fleet of 200 ships had been hidden in the moon's shadow, invisible to alien sensors. These weren't the massive dreadnoughts that other species built. They were sleek, fast, and deadly efficient. "All units, this is Phoenix Leader," he announced on the command frequency. "The trap is sprung. Time to show these aliens what human engineering can do." The human fleet emerged from behind the moon like a swarm of mechanical sharks. Their ships were smaller than the alien vessels, but infinitely more maneuverable. Moved in perfect coordination, each pilot knowing exactly what the others would do. "Remember your training," Lim continued as his ships accelerated toward the battle. "We're not trying to match their firepower. We're faster, smarter, and we know this system better than they do." The human ships struck like a swarm of deadly insects, darting between the massive alien vessels with incredible speed. Their weapons were different too. Focused energy beams that could punch through armor like paper, and smart missiles that could think for themselves. "All units, focus fire on their command ships." Lim ordered as his fighter screamed past a Zephyrian cruiser, its weapons carving deep gouges in the alien hull. Cut off their head, and the beast dies. The human pilots responded with precision that would have been impossible for any other species. They attacked the alien fleet's command structure with surgical accuracy, targeting communication arrays, bridge sections, and command centers. Admiral Vextel watched his carefully organized fleet dissolve into chaos. His ships were being attacked from every direction by enemies that seemed to appear from nowhere. The humans weren't just fighting, they were demonstrating. It's a level of tactical coordination that his species had never achieved. "Sir, we've lost contact with the entire 7th Fleet," reported his communications officer. The 15th and 22nd. "Fleets are requesting permission to retreat." "Retreat?" Ixthiel roared. "We are the Zephyrian Empire. We do not retreat." But even as he spoke, he knew the battle was already lost.
Ow.
The Zephyrian Armada, which had conquered 12 star systems, found itself surrounded, outgunned, and completely outmaneuvered. What they thought would be an easy conquest had become a massacre. The trap was perfect, and 50,000 alien ships were caught right in the middle of it. The battle raged for 6 hours, but it felt like an eternity to those watching from Earth. What had started as the most feared military force in the galaxy is now nothing more than burning wreckage floating in the darkness of space. Admiral Vextel stood alone on the bridge of his flagship, the Worldbreaker. The massive ship that had destroyed countless worlds now drifted powerless among the debris of his once mighty fleet. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, and the acrid smell of burning electronics filled the air. "Sir," whispered his communications. "Officer, one of the few crew members still alive. We've lost contact with 90% of the fleet. The remaining ships are requesting permission to retreat." Vexthel's forearms hung limp at his sides. His red eyes, once filled with the fire of conquest, now stared blankly at the tactical display showing the complete destruction of his armada. 50,000 ships reduced to less than 3,000 in a matter of hours. "How?" he muttered. How did these primitive creatures do this to us?" The answer came in the form of a transmission from Earth. Commander Park Hyojin's voice echoed through the bridge of every surviving alien ship, calm and professional, despite the magnitude of what had just occurred. "This is Earth Defense Command to all surviving Zephyrian vessels," Park announced. "You have 30 minutes to evacuate our solar system. Any vessel remaining after that time will be destroyed." The message was broadcast in 17 different alien languages, ensuring that every species in the conquered fleet understood exactly what was being said. There was no anger in the human commander's voice, no hatred or desire for revenge, just a simple, matter-of-fact statement that carried the weight of absolute authority. 30 minutes, Park continued. "Use this time to collect any survivors from disabled vessels. You will not fire on rescue operations. But when the deadline expires, anyone still in our system will be considered hostile." Admiral Vextel looked around his ruined bridge. His crew was dead. His ship was crippled. His empire's greatest fleet had been annihilated by a species he had dismissed as barely worthy of notice. "Sir," his tactical officer managed to croak through blood-stained lips. "What are your orders?" For the first time in his military career, Vextel had no answer. He had built his reputation on never losing a battle, never retreating, never showing weakness. But now, faced with the complete destruction of everything he had built, he found himself speechless. "We retreat," he finally whispered. "Signal all surviving ships. We retreat." The few intact Zephyrian ships began their desperate flight from the solar system. They moved in broken formation, their crews traumatized by what they had witnessed. These were soldiers who had conquered entire star systems. But they fled from Earth's solar system like frightened children as they prepared. To jump to hyperspace, the alien crews transmitted desperate messages back to their home worlds. Warning signals, tactical data, and terrified accounts of humanity's true capabilities flooded the galaxy's communication networks. "Command, this is Admiral Vextel." The broken leader spoke into his communicator. "The Earth invasion has failed. The humans are not primitive. They are something else entirely. Do not engage them. Do not underestimate them. They are not what they appear to be." The transmission cut out as the surviving ships disappeared into hyperspace, carrying their tale of defeat back to the Zephyrian Empire. On Mars, Major Cha Juan stood on the observation deck of the primary defense station, watching the last alien ship vanish into the star-filled darkness. The space around Mars was littered with debris from the alien fleet, twisted metal, floating wreckage, and the occasional explosion as damaged ships finally succumbed to their wounds. "I think they'll be back?" she asked, her voice quiet in the aftermath of the battle. General Bei Sung-ho joined her at the massive window, his weathered face reflecting the distant glow of burning alien ships. "Eventually," he replied, "next time they'll know what they're facing, and we'll be ready." The general's words carried the weight of prophecy. Already, human engineers were analyzing the alien technology, learning from the enemy's weapons and tactics. The victory had been complete, but it was just the beginning. Across the galaxy, other alien civilizations intercepted the Zephyrian distress calls, the Krillian Empire, the Vorthan Collective, Nexus Federation. Every major power in the galaxy suddenly found themselves re-evaluating their knowledge of the humans from Earth. The species they had dismissed as primitive had just eliminated the most feared military force in known space without losing a single populated world. The implications were staggering, Captain Kim, So Jin powered down the Mars defense grid from her command station deep beneath Olympus Mons. Around her, technicians began the long process of returning the planet to its peaceful appearance. Massive weapons would be hidden once again, waiting for the next threat. "Command, this is Mars Defense," she reported to Earth. "The solar system is secure. All alien forces have been eliminated or driven off." The response came back immediately. From Earth Defense Command, "Well done, Mars Defense. Welcome to the galactic community." Those words carried more meaning than most people realized. Humanity had just announced its presence to the universe in the most decisive way possible. They were no longer the primitive species hiding on a single world. They were a force to be reckoned with. As the human fleet began rescue operations and cleanup, searching for any survivors among the wreckage, one thing was absolutely certain: Earth would never again be underestimated. The galaxy had spent centuries believing that only the oldest, most advanced species could pose a real threat. They had been wrong. The humans had proven that intelligence, creativity, and determination could overcome any advantage. They had turned their entire solar system into a trap, using their enemies' assumptions against them. The age of humanity had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the depths of space, automated beacons began broadcasting a simple message to any ship that approached Earth's solar system: "This is human space. All visitors must request permission before entering. Failure to comply will result in immediate destruction." The message was broadcast in every known alien language, ensuring that no species could claim ignorance. The humans had revealed their true nature, and they wanted the galaxy to know exactly what they were capable of. The galaxy had a new apex predator. It wore the face of humanity. The age of conquest was over. The age of humanity had begun. The end.